Speaking of books,
Yeah, that concludes our advertisement for the Dubai Mall.
brought to you in part by...
Yes, we were paid handsomely for that plug.
Welcome to the 3% Podcast. This is Chad Post from Open Letter Books. I'm here with Tom Roberts from Albertina and New Directions, and our podcast, which is very irregular now, rather than being weekly. But
and I should apologize. I mean, this is largely my fault from having to work because the store just opened, having to work, 6 days a week for the last 6 weeks, and in theory, I start getting 2 days off starting Monday. So
nice.
We'll see. That would leave us with time Monday or Tuesday to actually record this, somewhat regularly.
That'd be perfect. Although, of course, like this next month, I'm gone almost the whole time, which is insane.
Yeah,
I have to go to this. I mean, this is the most intense travel I've ever done in my life. I'm going to go on tomorrow to Sharjah and Dubai, and then to Minneapolis, then to Milwaukee for ALTA, then to Los Angeles for an event for Michael Henry Heim, then DC. And then to Rome, and then to Seoul, South Korea. So on that trip, which is one, I will literally fly around the world.
But you will not be home in between?
I will, for days, like a couple days, and 1 week. The week of Thanksgiving, unless I go home to see my family, I'll be here. But other than that, it's like a couple days.
So have you been to the Sharjah thing before?
Yeah, I have. I'm not thrilled. It's interesting and it's useful to some degree, but it's not my favorite part of the world.
Sharjah is not particularly interesting.
No.
The rest of the Emirates is pretty interesting, I would say. But
I guess, yeah, I've been there for like 4 or 5 times now, and it's just sort of like a long flight for a 2-day conference.
Yeah, it's a really long flight. This is true.
Yeah, but it'll be fine. There's a lot of people that are going. They have it set up so that like you have the similar to ALTA, like the speed dating thing with agents and publishers and whatnot. But because it's Sharjah, if you sign a deal there or you sign an agreement to like eventually publish one of these books that you talk about at the fair, then you can get support for it, like a grant from the Sharjah Sheikh.
That's pretty cool.
Little Sheikh Sharjah, as I call him, but. That's really not a good idea, but so that's the worthwhile part of it.
I see.
Business wise, but they have us doing a lot of events during the day or like seminars and all that kind of stuff, which should be okay. There's one thing. Last time I went, they made us go out to see this camel Bedouin experience, which was insane. In which they drove us in these buses for like an hour and a half out to the desert into like this huge gated area with all these bright lights on and people flinging guns up and doing these crazy dances, and like you could ride a camel that tried to basically attack you at every moment. It was pretty wild. I'm not doing that this time.
That sounds really ridiculous. Yeah. It reminds me of the when I went on safari in where did I go on safari? Tanzania.
Oh wow!
That in between, like on the way to one of the various safari spots, like you go to the Ngorongoro crater, and then you go here, and then you go there. They pulled off the bus caravan, or I was in like a 4x4. Anyway, the little caravan pulls off at this quote unquote authentic Maasai village.
Yep.
Which is literally like the size of a football field.
Yeah.
And in a like a wooden fenced area. And of course you go in and the Maasai people do these dances and there's this whole thing, and it was so clearly not a real Maasai village, and yet the other tourists from around the world were eating it up, and I refused to set foot in the walls. I was very proud of myself.
that sounds like basically exactly the same.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely ludicrous. I'm skipping that this time. I'm gonna stay in my hotel and not drink.
Better things to do.
Yeah, and not drink because Sharjah's completely dry.
Sharjah is completely dry. It's really not that far from
Dubai. I know you can take the cab and all that, and it's only like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty damn close.
yeah, so maybe I'll do that one night. But
you should go to the world's tallest building.
Yeah, I was there last time. I didn't go in. I was going to try this time because if you buy the tickets ahead of time, it's super cheap. But if you buy them the day of, it's incredibly expensive.
Yes.
But the time that they have allotted for when I could do that is basically non-existent. It would have to be the one night. Is the only time that would happen. And I don't know if that's even possible, so I just didn't look into it. But I've been outside of it a few times, and it's crazy.
No, you should absolutely go at night. There are people that are going up and down until like 1 a.m.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to look into this then, because that would be cool. Did you go up to the top of it?
No, I'm terrified of heights.
I thought you said that before. Yeah. It's huge. I mean, it is terrifyingly huge.
Tall. It's inconceivable how tall it is. I will say the other thing to do is, the building is part of a mall structure.
Right.
There's a fountain outside.
Yeah. The fountain's awesome.
Much like the Bellagio in Vegas has like a quarterly, every quarter hour or so, a synchronized fountain show with really bad music and lights and everything. And it's amazing. You have to go outside and just hang out and wait for that.
I saw that last time. We spent most of when I went to Sharjah last time, we spent one day basically in Dubai at that mall, more or less, and like walking around, and that was pretty entertaining.
They have an indoor ice skating rink.
Yep. Yeah,
also,
which is super funny to watch.
That's a different mall, but
there's the ski slope, in the other mall.
The other mall. But the ice skating just seems so out of place.
It really does. It's super, and they have that weird indoor fountain too, with all the statues of the people like they're diving down into the pool. And that one that's the one with the aquarium, right?
Yes.
Which is gigantic. Like the largest aquarium I've ever seen. I got in trouble there last time because their bookstore is like one of the biggest bookstores in the world too. And I was trying to take pictures of it, and they came and stopped me. They're like, "You can't take pictures in the bookstore."
That's strange.
Yeah, I don't know if they thought I was going to take pictures of like pages of books, but I was like, "This is a huge place. Like it's hard to describe."
Right.
But, man. Anyways, so it'll be big. But speaking of books, we should
wait. Yeah, that concludes our advertisement for the Dubai Mall.
Brought to you in part by.
Yes, we were paid handsomely for that plug.
We got a barrel of oil to do that, but, which isn't worth as much now, unfortunately.
It's not nothing. I'll take it.
Yeah, me too. So first thing we wanted to talk about, there's a few things we wanted to get to, but one is Patrick Modiano winning the Nobel Prize, which took place a couple weeks ago in between our last podcast and now. Have you read his books before?
No. And, obviously one of the main reasons is only 3 of them are currently in print in English in translation. So it's not like he's been a big popular author among people like us, I wouldn't say.
I read one of them years and years ago because Godin did 3 of them. I think Knopf did one too back in like the 70s. But interestingly enough, we used to get his books at Delkey, and he was someone that we looked into. And I think that in one of the Warren Motti books, if not 2 of them, that Warren Motti is a French translator and scholar, mostly a scholar, and he wrote a number of books about French literature, and Modiano's in 2 of those books, or at least 1. And it always sounds really interesting. And interestingly, I had a conversation with Declan from New Directions about his books a couple years ago and how Declan was considering one of them.
Oh, well, I'm sure now the rights are going to get snatched up by Random House or something like that. But
yeah, I mean,
for the time being, there are 3 in print by David R. Godin, and one of which is a children's illustrated thing. So there's 2 novels. Missing Person, which is the English translation of, I can never quite remember the exact title of this book, Rue de les Obscurs or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the other one is The Honeymoon, which actually does come from... The first one is called Rue de Boutique Obscure, which is about a guy wandering around the streets of Rome and then Polynesia and all kinds of places, who has amnesia and he's trying to remember his life in the war. And then the other one is, I honestly don't know anything about the Honeymoon. That one has not been as popular. We've had lots of people coming into the store
for Missing Person.
asking for the English translations, and I'd say it's at least 5-1 try to reserve a copy of Missing Person compared to Honeymoon.
Yeah, I think that was the bigger one. Dora Bruder is the one that I have at home right now. That
one
that they're
not-
reissuing.
The rumor I heard from another bookseller is that it will be print on demand.
Oh, really?
Shortly. It doesn't seem to be available quite yet, but that's the rumor.
Oh, yeah.
So to explain to you, like, mind you, I just went through this 2 years ago at New Directions when Transdromer won, had a crazy day. So I get to I wake up and I read the New York Times news that a French author has won, and I was like, oh, fuck. I'm sure we have like 3 copies of these books, and they're going to be gone within 5 minutes of unlocking the door.
Yeah.
Which was entirely true. So I called David Argodin as early as I could and got somebody on the phone, and she was very polite, and I asked her for as many as I could possibly get and told her we didn't even have an account. And apparently David himself was in the background and said, oh, no, just send them whatever they want. Just send it. And so we only got, but she was very judicious, I thought, and only gave us 20 copies of Missing Person and 20 of Honeymoon, and then I think she was trying to save them for other stores. And that's totally fine, and I totally agree with that.
It's worth noting, there is one more book of his, Out of the Dark, that's available from University of Nebraska.
Well, that's the one that's going into print on demand.
That makes sense, yeah.
We also, at the same time, ordered about 150 books in total from like 4 or 5 different titles, including he, published one this year from France. We got those in just last week.
Wow.
And we're sold out by Sunday morning.
Holy crap.
Everyone has been coming in asking for them. Oddly enough, and I don't mean to like bitching about customers. Booksellers could do this all day, every day.
Yeah.
But it's kind of bizarre to me that no one believes us or didn't understand beforehand that we did not know he was going to win, that we did not have like some inside track, that his publisher didn't even know, that, that the Swedish Academy operates in total secrecy. And that, maybe we should have, that he was on the short list or whatever. I was like, there is no short list.
Yeah.
Anyone can get nominated. It's the hundreds of people long. It does not matter. Anyway, so yes, people are a little bizarrely surprised that we don't have the books and that they had to be reprinted.
This happens every year. I mean, I guess last year is the only time I can think of that wasn't a huge problem, because copies of Alice Munro books are everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, but most of these others are always just about to be, they're not remaindered, but they're like small print runs for the most part. Heard of Mueller?
Yeah.
L'Ecclesio. This is like, David Godin wins all the time.
Yeah, he's doing quite well. So, in the course of discussing this with somebody else, I looked up Nobel Prize winners by country. Mm-hmm. France has now won 15 times, which is quite impressive. More depressing than anything else is if you go to this list and look at the quote-unquote Americans who have won.
Right.
Like 4 of them were actually born in America. And the rest are immigrants who then claimed the U.S. as their homeland because of whatever political or whatever issues were going on in their home country that led them to America. So, I don't know. I feel like us taking credit for that is not great.
Yeah, it's true. I'm looking at all this too. Yeah, Joseph Brodsky, Abby Singer, Miloš. Miloš does not count. Why is that on here? What the hell? That's the weirdest one.
That one is the weirdest, I would say. But
like some of the others, like T.S. Eliot, okay, fair enough. So that makes sense. Sinclair Lewis, Eugene O'Neill, Pearl Buck, William Faulkner, Ernest Hemingway, John Steinbeck, Toni Morrison, Saul Bellow, who was born in Canada, which I did not know. And then it's like Russia, Soviet Union, Poland. Yeah, this is weird.
It's very bizarre. Anyway, there you go.
France does win a lot.
So passes yet another year in which an American does not win, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. Fuck Philip Roth.
Yep.
Just because I say that. Can I bitch for a minute about gambling?
Yeah.
Okay. Every year there's this list that is it Lloyd's of London who does this?
Ladbrokes.
Ladbroke. They published this list of favorites, quote unquote favorites, to win the Nobel Prize. Mm-hmm. Now, the way that wagering works is that the house, the broker, wants as much money to be placed on bets as humanly possible.
Yep.
And with something like this where they're offering odds, they offer two different variations. They offer, quote unquote, good odds for recognizable names so that people who would not be betting otherwise, but who have a stake in, an interest in what might happen when the award is announced, will place money on that because they think, oh, he has good odds. He must be the favorite. He'll win. I'll put down whatever, $5 and win 50 if Murakami or Philip Roth wins, right?
Yeah.
Those odds are set solely for the purpose of garnering bets. That's it. It is not an indication of how likely that person is to win at all.
Right.
And the odds actually get, quote unquote, better the more people place bets on that.
Right,
and
exactly.
And what that means is more people think he is going to win from the betting public. That's it. Right. It doesn't mean he is a favorite. It means absolutely nothing in terms of how likely he is to win. And every year we get these people like, oh, look at these odds. He must be the favorite. No, that is not how it works at all.
It really is. And it's really frustrating that that's usually the line that all the stories leading up to the announcement of the Nobel Prize tend to revolve around this. So even like when I just Google it quickly, it's like the first thing that comes up is Time magazine. Don't bother betting on the Nobel Prize for Literature, explaining like who the favorites are and how the favorites usually don't win.
Right.
And for the reasons that you're stating, they don't go into that. But that's exactly it. Like it's all that's just like publicly fueled speculation, not anything else. Which is why Bob Dylan's always on there.
Which is insane.
Bob Dylan's never going to win.
No.
Like, there's no reason.
If the list of most recent winners doesn't convince you that Bob Dylan is not going to win, I don't know how else to convince you.
Exactly.
These are people writing, very serious, literature, meaning on the page, stuff that's internal and meant to be read. Yeah. Not lyrics. Which is
those are poems,
Bob Dylan is
man.
a genius. Don't get me wrong. He's just not a writer.
It's fucking poetry.
Whatever.
Yep.
Having this debate one more time. My father is a huge Bob Dylan fan. So.
I remember this because we have that one of the podcasts opens with a Dylan song.
Oh, God.
Because of that, because we talked about it. It may even be one where we talked about the Nobel Prize, but it's a remix, so it's like super crazy. I forget how to find it, but it's one of the episodes does open with a Dylan song.
Oh, there you go. Here I am ranting about it yet again.
Yeah,
just yelling, "Get off my lawn!"
Move it, trees. Don't grow there. Oh, God.
I should point out I don't actually have a lawn.
Yeah.
As I live in New York, and yeah.
Did you see, not to digress or rant, but there was someone, Brooklyn Magazine, I think it was, did this takedown of BuzzFeed had 110 reasons why you should never leave New York. And it was like 110 reasons why New York is the greatest place. And they just basically made fun of it because the list is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's mostly the most repetitive thing ever. It'll be like, because we have bodegas, because you know your bodega man's name, because you can buy things at bodegas. It's like on there 7 times. It's like, it's the worst list I've ever seen in my life. And I was glad that someone else like just shat on it. But one of the big things is like it keeps repeating too over and over again how you can like watch people on the subway, and it's like, well, you can watch people watching is great, and the next thing is like people watching in New York. Like people watching can happen anywhere. Like this isn't necessarily specific to New York City. It's pretty fantastic though. I'm gonna find that because it's really entertaining. But switching gears, I think we're going to talk next about Michael Henry Heim, because you guys just got the book that we published.
Yes. I, for some reason, thought this book was like another year away.
Oh.
Don't mind me. I'm kind of out of the loop sometimes. But yes, Esther Allen stopped by the store. I was not there. She talked to one of my colleagues, and Esther mentioned the book. And then my colleague asked me if I knew the book, and I said, yes, of course, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I ordered it, and we just got it in yesterday. So
that's awesome. This is, to fill it in, it's The Man Between, Michael Henry Heim and A Life in Translation, which I don't know if you've looked at it yet, but it's like 19 essays. It starts with actually like an autobiography, more or less, about Michael Henry Heim, because he gave a series of interviews in Romania that were converted into like a little book about his life, and no one knew about this like at all until like a couple years before he died. It got mentioned, and Sean Cotter, who won the Best Translated Book Award for one of his Romanian translations, started working on translating the whole thing, because or at least a chunk of it, as a little autobiography for Michael Henry Heim. But to back up, I guess, a bit, you knew Michael Henry Heim, right?
I knew of him. I had met him once, I think, in person, but it was probably with Barbara or somebody like that, and so I never really talked to him.
Yeah, so anyone who's listening who doesn't know, he translated over 60 books from almost a dozen languages. He knew like 12 to 14 languages when he passed away in 2012, but he translated like Kundera, Bohumil Horrible. There are other big ones: Dubravka Greshik, Vasily Askinov, and I can't pronounce that, Danilo Kish, Chapek, Gunter Grass. He translated the last book that he has that he worked on is coming out from New Directions, is the Max Bleeker book, Adventures in Immediate Unreality, which sounds brilliant, which is translated from Romanian. So he worked from Romanian, Czech, Serbia, Croatian, all of these different languages. He was working, the last time I saw him, I think, was we were on a plane together going to a conference, and he was working on learning how to translate a Mandarin and translate this one Chinese book. Like, he's just like, was an insane polyglot and like knew all this stuff. But he lived his whole life in Los Angeles, more or less, working at UCLA, helped start like this Babel group for like young translators. And then the big like reveal, a number of years ago, there was an anonymous donation of hundreds of thousands of dollars to Penn to set up the Penn Translation Fund to help give grants to young translators, primarily working on projects, just like a few $1,000s to help them keep going. And after he died, it was revealed on 3%, actually, that he was the donor, that he had gotten this inheritance from his father dying in the war. So it's like a little wartime whatever payment. And his family just never touched it. They just saved it. And he just kept adding money to it when he could and not doing anything with it. So he could leave this big amount of money to benefit translators. So the book is like a lot of collections, is a collection of essays about like translation stuff, some like translation theory type of things, about his like process of how he taught people, but then a lot of it's about him and about people's reminiscences of like how amazing he was as a human being. I know he was friends with Barbara.
Yeah. I know it's weird because I think the last book that we're publishing, I think he passed away before we finished editing it.
Oh,
and
really?
There was some debate, and I think somebody close to him, said, "Barbara, no, go ahead. You can edit it as you see fit." And it was, a little touchy. And Barbara eventually was given the green light. And because she knew him, I think, she felt okay about doing it. But otherwise, it's a weird thing to do,
That's true. I mean, Priscilla, his widow, is still active. And like, she helped us with this book too. And is like, I can imagine that she would be happy to have Barbara edit it. Yeah. And I don't think, when I worked with Michael, I don't think that he was ever very like some translators that are really touchy about different things. He was pretty laid back for the most part. He's also fucking genius. Like, it wasn't like hard to work on his books.
They're probably in pretty damn good shape the first time around, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He was so thoughtful about things too, and it did so many different things to benefit people and translators. But he's just really like a smart guy who's very, very like kind and accepting of a lot of people. I really liked him. He also, you'll know this if you did meet him the one time, he looked just like Abraham Lincoln.
He did, yes. He actually also reminded me of Parekh, but
oh yeah, a little bit, but with different hair.
Different hair, but I don't know. There was something about him, just maybe like the way he sort of moved around the room.
That's true.
Like that just sort of reminded me of Parekh. I don't know why, but
he was great.
Parekh is on the brain a lot for me lately. So.
Really, I got the new book from Godin. Speaking of Godin, of Parekh's.
Which did they just put out?
I Remember.
Oh yeah, we have that at the store. I didn't realize that was new.
Yeah, I guess it had never been translated until now. Came out in 2014. I guess it came out just in September. I've read part of this before, though, or seen part of it. Maybe it was like excerpted somewhere at some point in time.
I think, by the way, all Parekh books should have basically a variation of that cover.
Yeah.
A picture of Patrick.
He's the best. We had, you know who he looks just like too is the person that your girlfriend really likes of ours, Yakov Lind.
I don't know what he looks like at all.
Google. Let's see if it's the first thing that comes up. We did a post once about this. Yeah, just do a Google search and look at the images, and he looks a lot like especially like the third or fourth one in that has the crazy hair with the crazy mustache. Like those two pictures that you hopefully will see next to each other. One is Prek on the right, and on the left is Lynn. That's from our website because we thought they looked identical.
All right, images. Oh yeah, look at that.
And he's got the crazy hair.
Yeah, that mustache though.
That mustache is badass.
That's a singular mustache.
That is something. Speaking of mustaches, did you get the first Deep Vellum book?
we just
randomly
just appreciate how you made that transition.
I think everyone knows.
That.
Everyone knows about Will Evans's mustache. If you know Will Evans, he's got a very distinctive mustache too.
I have not.
I'll tell him to send it to you. But his first book came out by Carmen Boyosa, and she's doing a bunch of events in New York later this month. It's called Texas: The Grand Theft. But
hearing all about it, I didn't realize that was the first.
Yep. Now, and then the other ones are all like semi-delayed because he's being distributed by Consortium in their next round of catalogs. So I think he delayed certain things to make it so that there weren't that many books that came out prior to Consortium officially taking over.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, and then speaking of him, I'm going to make this transition too. I'm going to see him next week at the ALTA Conference, the American Literary Translators Association Conference in Milwaukee this time.
Yeah, I lost out on this. No offense to Rochester. I know you live there, but Milwaukee is much more fun.
Yeah, I haven't been in Milwaukee for like 6 years, but I assume that's the case. Although, yeah, we shall see. I'm sure it will be fun. We make the thing fun no matter what.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research this morning. Look at me. Although I was thwarted by just how awful Alta's website is.
Which one? Wait, are you looking at alta2014.org?
Yeah.
Okay, I can explain this to defend them for a second. When they switched, so they left Dallas. It was all run by Rainer Schulte at the University of Texas, Dallas. He retired. The organization is now free from that university and is a separate organization, which meant that the website that was hosted there is deleted, is gone. And so they're in process. They're supposed to have their new website fully designed and ready to go by the time of this conference. And I'm not sure if they'll make that deadline or it will be like in another month. But this Alta 2014 was a website put together by the group that organizes the conference just to allow people to register for the conference. Their official website does not exist right now.
Fair enough.
So that's just to explain.
And yes, if you want to go and register and get all the information, that's fine. However, if you would like to see a schedule of panels, you're looking at a mess. That's
yeah.
It's terrible. So all I can see are titles of panels, and I really like how from 8 to 9 every day it says breakfast, and then in parentheses, on your own.
Well, there is one breakfast they pay for.
I see.
I don't have the schedule in front of me anymore. Oh wait, this is it. Yeah, there's one day that there's the official breakfast. Where is it? But basically, they always like the people who go there always expect all this free stuff. Yeah, see, it's on Saturday, November 15th. Breakfast Crystal Ballroom Foyer.
Got it.
That's the one that's available to the people. But yeah, I don't know why they don't have the full thing up here yet.
And look, I don't need room numbers or whatever. Yeah. That sort of thing is irrelevant. You can figure that out when you get there. But, this event, for example, first thing Thursday morning, why Polish poetry?
Right.
Who's moderating that? Who's speaking?
That information would be useful.
So which of these are you involved in?
I am on...
Publishing your first translation?
No, I'm on one panel, thank God, and that's it. And it's something called... Maybe it's the editing translation. Yeah, on Saturday, November 15th at 11:15. That one's mine. I'm on that one with Russell Valentino and a couple other people. I forget who. But other than that, the only other thing I'm doing is speed dating.
Oh, you're doing that.
But I don't know that. Did you know how this works? It's actually sort of fantastic and interesting. So what happened, I got the information today, is that to participate in the speed dating, they set this up as like a chance for translators to talk with editors from poetry presses, fiction publishers, magazines, so on and so forth. I think there's like 8 to 10 presses that are being represented or editors that are there. And to participate in it, my assumption was that you just came there and sat down and told me that you wanted me to publish your book, right? Which is totally wrong. So a translator that wanted to participate had to fill out an application and send in 2 pages of their translated work with 2 specific questions that they want the editor to answer. And those questions can't be like, how do I get this published? So I have 3 people that I'm doing that I'm meeting with. The first one is someone who translated Mikhail Tarkovsky's Ice Flow for the Best European Fiction 2015. And he has 2 pages from it, and it's asking a question like, would it be a wise approach in choosing which pieces to translate for a collection in terms of novellas versus stories? And is it better to have a collection of stories mostly unpublished elsewhere, or do previous journal publications help a collection like this? Because it's a series of stories. But they're like actual, like I get to read their thing, and then they sit down and I can answer their questions in terms of that. So it's not as like crazy as I envisioned it.
I will say I did something like that for students in an MFA program a few years ago when I was in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so I had like, if not the entire short story, maybe like they limited to a number of words or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we would sit down for, it was like 15 minutes, and, I would try to give them advice on where to take the story or what I thought was good and what should be, whatever, workshopping. But the point was that I was outside of their MFA sort of world. It wasn't one of their teachers. I was looking at it more of a, from a publication standpoint or whatever. So it's a little more sane than like straight up speed dating. And hopefully it means that the people who are there are organized and they weeded out crazy people.
Yeah.
Who knows? And you might actually find it interesting to hear what translators are, going through before they actually do send things to you.
Right, exactly.
Which, we should all know more about this sort of stuff, try to put ourselves in each other's place,
Yeah, that's why I like the way that this turned out. It works pretty well. I tried to they didn't get as many people submitting for this. I think my thought was that people thought they could just sign up at the conference, which is what I thought until I was told differently. So I don't think they got as many applicants of translators as they expected. But the 3 that I have are all totally straight. They, at least from their bios and stuff, seem totally normal. Like the second person won Heim translation grant for a translation of a book, and then the third one is an MFA student at the University of Arkansas, who's working on one of those, like a Russian writer, but from one of those places that I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of. But they seem fairly useful.
Right.
Which is nice. Which is very nice and surprising. Pleasantly surprised. But the conference should be okay. We're hosting with Michael Henry Heim, going back to that, on Wednesday night. For anyone who's listening who is going to ALTA, we're co-sponsoring the event, the opening reception, which has food and drinks, and it's going to be in honor of Michael Henry Heim. We'll have copies of the book for cheap there. We'll sell them for $10 each, and I think they're going to have essentially a microphone where people can tell their stories about their time with Michael Henry Heim. And Esther will be there, and Russell, and all those people to kind of preface the book and explain it. So if you're around and you're going to ALTA, you should definitely go to that. Because some of the people on this that listen to this know this whole story, one of the things that's going to be crazy is our friend Inara is going to be there, the other Latvian translator that hates Kaya. So ALTA could be very interesting. She also hates me. Inara hates me specifically. She wrote to ALTA to complain that I was part of speed dating and Words Without Borders, and that we are 2 of the rudest and awful places in the world.
Look, objectively, that is true.
Definitely, it's gonna be very odd.
It's gonna be comfortable.
Yep. Good times. But I don't know. Was there anything else about ALTA that you're
No,
interesting?
just it's I'm curious to see how some of these to hear about how these panels unfold. But that's obviously for after. So
I'm going to try and write up more about them this time, like I did years ago, and I haven't done recently. But since I'm not on any of them, I should have more time to be able to do that. And I think it's better to go not being on a lot of panels.
oh, absolutely. I mean, the one time I went, I felt like I had panels at least one every day,
Yeah.
and a couple of days too. And you just look, I know it's these things that we've all talked about a million times, and here we are, sort of talking about it on the fly. And when we do the podcast, and when we go to parties, and all of this sort of thing, but somehow, like sitting in front of an audience, an expectant, paying audience, where it gets in your head, and you sort of worry about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, and presenting, and you feel like you need to be on your game or whatever, and it just sort of ruins your day until it's done. So anyway, yes, it's more fun to go as a audience member than it is as a presenter. That's for sure.
Very true. So it should be interesting, and it's like the part of the new era of ALTA. Like over the next 3 years, it's going to be a wholly different organization with new structure. Not wholly new, but like it's not part of that university anymore. So they're redeveloping things, creating a new sort of who's running it, how it's run, the fundraising that they're doing, all that kind of stuff is changing. So this is just the beginning of it.
I have a lot more questions about that, but I will assume that we cannot discuss these publicly. And,
I could talk to you about it somewhat, but I'm not officially on any of their things yet because they're part of one of the things that's part of the structure of this is that ALTA's their bylaws and all that is that you have to be a member and essentially a translator to be on their board of directors, which is very limiting because it doesn't give you any outside perspectives on things.
Right.
So I think I'm eventually getting involved officially with like their advisory committee or whatever as like they change their bylaws or adjust them or things like that. And I've been in touch with them a number of times. But yeah, I think after the next year, at some point we can do some sort of podcast, maybe even with Erica Mena, who's their managing director, to talk about what they're doing. And I think it would be interesting.
Moving on,
and
enjoy yourself in Milwaukee and wherever else you're going.
I'm going to drink lots of beer in Milwaukee.
Yes. Oh, God. The best thing about the whole state of Wisconsin is that, one, the beer is amazing. Two, it's dirt cheap.
Yep.
Like, just giving it away, basically.
Yep.
I will say, though, I was at a wedding last weekend in York, Pennsylvania, which there's no reason it's famous for anything.
Right.
Apparently some Revolutionary and Civil War stuff happened there, whatever. Two, Jeff Koons is from there. Did not know that.
Oh, interesting.
But anyway, my friend is from there, and so she got married there. And so we had a beer at the bar in the hotel before the wedding at like 5:30, and I go up and I'm the big man, and I buy my two friends, one of whom is living in Oakland and in his town, and I haven't seen him in 4 months or so. Buy them all a round of beers, and I order 3 Yingling, which is local Pennsylvania beer, not the best, but whatever, it was on tap. They were $1.75.
That's even better.
It's incredible.
Wow.
$1.75. He's like, yeah, it's happy hour. It's like, how much could it cost regularly?
That's the most bizarre number too. Like they have a different beer at the place we go to every week. Every month they have a different beer that's $2.50 for their.
Who wants change at a bar?
No I know, like just make it $2 or $3. $1.75 is extra ridiculous.
It certainly is.
Oh my God. So I guess the last main thing we were going to talk about was Atavist closing, which I think we both know. You're friends with Ryan Chapman too.
I am.
Had worked there when they started up. But Atavist, for anyone who didn't know, is huge.
It's two things. There's Atavist, the website,
right?
Digital, who sell short stories and short reportage sort of pieces digitally. You can subscribe, et cetera, et cetera. And they had a book wing that had started only a year ago, 2 years.
I think they were planning it for a year, and it started last year.
Okay, so the book wing is closing up shop at the end of 2014. So,
and the thing that was interesting, there's a lot of people involved that were big names and had, according to this article, an investment of $20 million in it. And one of the things that made Atavist Books unique was that they were going to start with ebooks, the ebook coming out first, essentially. The print book would be later, that it was more geared towards that, the ebook aspect of stuff. So their very first book they printed was the ebook version of, or the ebook of Sleep Donation by Karen Russell.
Yeah.
So they had some big names that were involved in this. Some of the other books that are listed here are like Hari Kunzru, Chris Adrian and Eli Horowitz, Camila Shamsi, like various people who have like decent reputations. But the idea was basically this, that now we don't need to do a print book that then drives ebook sales, but maybe the ebook can then eventually drive print sales. So I was sort of like surprised that it closed, and like that was the thing that struck me most, or that I thought was kind of interesting of what it's saying, that isn't the case yet. That the ebook, the kind of ebook only or ebook primary publishing is still not as feasible as people might want it to be.
Their statement. Or a representative for IAC. What is IAC? Their official name?
What is that?
Yeah, Atavist.
Oh, yeah, it's Diller's company. It's Barry Diller's company.
This is poor wording, I will say, but the quote is, while we are very proud of the quality of the titles produced by Atavist Books to date, we have identified that the market for highly innovative, enhanced, full-length literary ebooks still heavily relies on a print component and has yet to emerge.
Yep.
Which, yeah, that's true. And I will say, this idea is not unique. OR Books does something quite similar to this.
Yeah, although OR has the craziness of like they only sell their books through their website.
There is that on top of everything. Yes. Yeah. They are also, I presume, not making money. How long they can keep it going is, yet to be seen.
Although interestingly, I don't think OR is making a lot of money, but I think that the fact that they do mostly nonfiction is advantageous for that.
It is, because it's very, if you can, strike while the iron is hot with a particular news item and the appropriate book to go along with it, they definitely have a certain political bias. Then yeah, you can actually, make some money, for a couple months, and then, the book has its life and you move on to the next thing. So yeah, trying to sell, as they say, highly innovative, enhanced, full-length literary ebooks. Different story. Story.
I have the one I have isn't one of. I don't even know that counts as one of their books, but the Trials of White Boy Rick I got the other day.
Did you read that? I was just reading about that.
I have it on my phone, because you just buy it and it's like on your phone as an app, or you could read it on their website. But I didn't start reading it because it required me to read it on my phone. Which I will do eventually. What's that?
Is that Evan Hughes?
Yeah, Evan Hughes, and it's like, and it's got like the thing that I was showing some of my students that I meet with right before we do this, that are helping with our ebook thing, our ebook only series, is that they had all the embedded stuff. So like it has the chapter, and then it has like a YouTube video of different aspects of it. So it's very pretty. Like the design on it is very pretty, but I haven't gotten around to actually reading it. But I'd like to. I like Evan a lot, and it sounds fascinating. And it was sold for 6 figures for a movie edition. Yeah,
well, I can tell you that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But congrats to Evan.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets his money.
Right.
What happens after that is the part that...
That's the part that I was most interested in.
Yeah.
Sort of like our friend that got the... what was he? Did he get like $5 million for the film rights to that book that... what is it called? Not New York on Fire, something on fire. Garth, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I forget what the name of that book is. And it hasn't come out, but they sold the movie rights, and then the next week they sold the book rights for $1 million. Like, who knows if that movie will ever exist, but at least he made out well.
He made out very well.
Yes.
This is true.
Absolutely.
I will say, I ran into him not too long ago, and he looks like a man who is in need of sleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has to turn in the book, like, I don't know, Monday or something, I think is now the deadline. But yeah, he's like, I need to just stop editing and turn this in and go on vacation for a month.
I'm really interested to read that. I had an early version of part of it from inside sources, but I wanted to wait and just read the finished book. But I know that he worked on that, and he referenced reading Peter Nadish's Parallel Stories, And I talked to the last time I met with him, he talked about parallel stories like the whole time, which I actually read this summer. So I'm curious to see if like his book has any echoes of that.
Mm.
Which I think me and him are like we're like 2 of like 7 people in America who have read that book. And
Yeah,
it's fucking 1,200 pages long.
I'm not picking that up.
It is not an easy book by any means. But so you get a rave this week.
I get a rave this week. So do you want to go first? I feel like
Sure, I can. My rant. I'm going to not go back and look at this, but because I don't want to name people or anything like that. But a couple weeks ago, no, I found it. I guess I'm going to have to. So someone I'm friends with on Facebook who is a reviewer posted this comment, said, okay, 500-page neo-modernist paragraph break-free novel, bring it, I can take you. And I asked him what book he's talking about, because I'm pretty sure I know what it is. I'm pretty sure he's talking about Shark by Will Self, which I'm also very interested in reading. And the thing that got me going, he's like, well, I can't tell you whether or not what the name of the book is, professional, whatever, which is fine. But underneath, there's like tons of comments, like 10 comments here that are basically like people, and some of them are very famous people, or like people I would think of as being like readerly people, are complaining about the idea that there's no paragraph breaks. Like it just keeps going on about like, there's no paragraph. How could you do that? That's sadism, pure and simple. Glad it's you and not me. Somebody must think they're Thomas Bernhard. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's weird to me that these people are so obsessed with the fact that this book that he references, not even naming it, says that there's no paragraph, there's 1 paragraph book, and that people are immediately like, fuck that. That is not okay. And that is my rant, that is silly. Like, there are books that have no paragraphs that are completely fine to read. It's not like this, that this automatically makes it impossible or super difficult or like not worth reading. Like that, it's such a weird artificial thing to me. It drives me crazy. It's like with my students and punctuation. Like if a book doesn't use quotation marks, if it uses the M dashes, freaks them out.
Really?
Yep.
That was
Every
really
time,
easy to get used to.
Every time someone will be like, well, or if they're translating, they're like, we should probably change it because because in America you use always quotation marks. It's like, you don't. There's a lot of books that have used these other ways of doing it. It's a convention. Oh, it drives me nuts. I wish people were more open-minded about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, linguistics is slightly outside of this, but it does apply. I mean, the point is to be understood, right? The whole point of writing and speaking any language is to be understood. If you can get away with using M dashes instead of quotation marks, which are honestly aesthetically not entirely pleasing, by all means, and people will understand what you mean if they just, take a second and think, okay, this introduces speech, right? And then you get used to it after 2 pages and it's done. And it's not a rule. I agree with you. Like this idea that there are grammar rules it's an old rule and it's bullshit. Like it is not true. There is no governing body dictating rules. If you are understood when you speak or write something, then it is acceptable language. You know?
Exactly. It drives me nuts. It's just like a weird knee-jerk reaction to it.
Yeah.
So what are you raving about?
So I figure I've been at the store a few weeks now, or the store's been open for a few weeks now, and part of the fun so far for me has been coming across books that I'd never encountered in translation before, to either from the French into English or the other way around, from English into French. And we have a lot of writers from around the world that are now translated in French and that we're selling. And so I, put them on the shelves, and sometimes I'm like, oh God, that's how they translated that. And it's quite amusing. And being as that, this is a podcast about, mostly translated literature, I thought I would share a few of my favorites.
Nice.
Beginning with Harper Lee's famous book, To Kill a Mockingbird. Mm-hmm. In French is titled Ne tirez pas sur le oiseau moqueur, which translates to, roughly, and the don't is very important here, the ne pas, ne tirez pas. Don't pull the mockingbird, or don't pull on the mockingbird, or don't pluck the mockingbird. It's very insistent that you don't do anything to this mockingbird. As opposed to this sort of ephemeral way that Harper Lee had of saying it, To Kill a Mockingbird. And
Right.
I don't know, it's just very direct, right?
That's weird.
In the laziness department, we have John le Carre's famous spycraft novel, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and before I give you the title, I don't know if you've read the book, but that title is very, very important in the story itself, in that as they're trying to uncover who the spy is,
Right.
They assign them all, the four candidates that they think might be the spy, they assign them code names, and they are Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, and I can't remember what the other one is. It's not Spy,
Right.
but it does come from a children's nursery rhyme,
right.
That's popular in England. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier. I forget what it is. Anyway, and it, they actually include the nursery rhyme in the middle of the conversation. They go, I forget the boss's name. They talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, okay, maybe it's not Tinker, it's not Tailor. And the whole point is that on the night that they trap the spy, they are going to make one phone call, and the only thing that George Smiley is meant to say on this phone call is the code name, right? Anyway, incredibly important to the plot. So you'd think maybe the French would go ahead and try to translate this and convey some meaning. No. Instead, they just call it la taupe, which means the mole.
The rhyme, by the way, is Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Sailor, Rich Man, Poor Man, Beggar Man, Thief.
There you go.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
Moving on, I've got two more here. One more from the English to the French. Nobody Move, of course, by Dennis Johnson, one of my favorite writers.
Which his book is on its way to me.
Huh?
I ordered the new one.
Oh, the new one.
So we can do that podcast on it.
Yeah. You got to read that. So Nobody Move, which is his sort of pulpy Southern or Northern California thing. Anyway, it's the thing that bankers or whatever heisters do when they bust into the room. They say, nobody move, right?
Right.
So the French title is Personne bouge, which basically means a person moves. So they've kind of missed the point entirely of the title. God. Not only that, I don't know what the term would be. I'm fairly certain that there's a term that would convey the same thing, even if it doesn't use the terms move. Or
right.
person.
French gangsters have to do something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Last but not least, my favorite French writer, Michel Houellebecq, his first novel, and first translated into English as Whatever.
Yeah.
The original title in French has always cracked me up, and because it makes no sense that the translation is whatever, but then again, the French title is meant to be nonsense, and it's L'extension du domaine de la lutte, which means roughly the expansion of the boundaries of the struggle.
Whatever.
And I mean, I asked my boss about it, and he's like, no, it's meant to just be nonsense. And so I was like, so giving it the title Whatever makes perfect sense. And he's like, yes.
That's so funny.
Oh, I have one more that I just reminded of because I had a discussion with my colleague who's French last night about this, because we got in more copies of Céline's Death on the Installment Plan.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, we can't keep in stock.
It's an amazing book.
But so the French title is Mort à crédit.
Mm-hmm. Death on credit.
Yeah. And so which we could have translated directly.
That is the title for the UK version.
Is it?
For the first one, yeah. I think it was Death on Credit.
Death on the Installment Plan conveys just something wonderful. And I think that title is much better than Death on Credit.
I agree.
The Installment Plan is such a, it's got such a negative, depressed sort of connotation.
In fact, it looks like the UK one is still...
They still calling it that?
Because there's two translations of it. And the John Marks one is the one that I believe is Death on Credit. And it has a picture here. And it looks like the brand new cover from, from One World Classics. Yeah, 2009, Death on Credit.
Well, the British also just recently...
Oh, but it is the Ralph Manheim one. They just used the other title.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
I'm sending you a cover right now, by the way,
Okay.
to your Gmail account that I would also like everyone to be aware of. That this is the other joy of working in a French bookstore is they have a lot of fun with their covers in a way that we don't. Like, go look up, I'm not even sure this is translated into English, but if there is like an Oxford World Classics or Penguin Classics edition of this book, which is Honoré de Balzac's Philosophie de la vie conjugale, which is, philosophy of conjugal life.
Yeah.
The cover is basically an Andy Capp cartoon.
Yep.
Which is just brilliant.
That is really perfect.
God bless them. That is just... Also, it costs €2, which is like $3.
Why is it so cheap? That's like...
Because it's not in copyright and they just...
Oh.
I mean, it's also like 100 pages, but...
Oh, yeah.
But that cover is... For anyone who doesn't know who Andy Capp is, he's like the comic strip version of Carol O'Connor's character in All in the Family.
Yeah.
Perhaps less racist.
Right.
But essentially, yeah, his wife is always on him about why doesn't he do this or why does he come home late or blah, blah, blah. And it's...
if you see, even if you don't know the name, when you see the comic, you'll know it. It's the picture because it's so...
It's very famous.
Yeah, it's wedded into everyone's consciousness somehow.
Yes.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
What else? Oh, I've got one more little thing here. So the French, when you mentioned Russian writers the other day, they've taken it upon themselves to just spell things differently that I thought, and it's from different languages that, like, their Chekhov begins with a T.
Oh, that's really interesting.
It's problematic.
Yeah.
But somebody called the other day looking for a play, and I'm totally blanking on the French playwright's name. Anyway, but it's The Legend of Tristan and Isolde, or it's a version of that story, perhaps not translated from. It's not Shakespeare's version. It's another version of this story, right?
Right.
Tristan and Isolde. Instead of it being Isolde, though, it's Yeut.
Whoa.
Isot.
Dude, never guessed that.
No. And the first time, I'm typing it into the system and it comes up eventually, like, Google autofill or whatever. But our system does the same thing. So I got as far as La Légende de Tristan and it pops up. And I was like, what the hell? And that's how they spell Isolde. Which I guess it comes from a Greek alphabet. So
yeah, that's true.
They can sort of spell it however they like. But you'd think there'd be some uniform way of spelling this now that we all use the same alphabet.
Right. I mean, they do have, there's some of the... Dostoevsky's name has changed its spelling over time in English.
Oh, absolutely.
Too. Yeah. Which is always weird, because I guess it's just to make it easier to pronounce.
Yeah.
But, so I can understand sort of when it's coming from Cyrillic, that thing, but it is weird to think of it as, the Cyrillic to English and the Cyrillic to French being totally different, or Greek to French, in that case.
Right.
It's there's always one of the weird things about, too, learning languages when, countries are different names.
Right.
It's a weird concept, I guess.
Right. I love the French term for the Netherlands is Pays-Bas, which lowlands.
Lowlands, yeah.
Low country.
That's the way it should be.
Which makes me wonder where the hell the name Holland comes from.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
Oh, man. Anyway,
we got a lot in there.
Yeah, we did. This is a good, solid podcast. We didn't even, no sports talk.
No sports talk.
I'm disappointed about the Royals. I thought that would have been great for them.
It would have, whatever.
San Francisco's pretty damn good.
They are.
I was surprised that your Knicks beat the Cavs last night.
I kind of feel bad about that.
It was supposed to be a big homecoming, and then suddenly it's like, oh, we're just going to shit on you. ruin your joy.
Melo hit a 2 over LeBron himself with a minute to go that kind of sealed it. And it was kind of sad to watch LeBron just kind of slump down and be like, man, what could I do? Melo is a really good scorer.
The game tonight with the Bulls and the Cavs should be interesting.
Yeah, they might get blown out.
They could. I really like Kevin Love, though.
Emotional high from last night,
Yeah. The back-to-back, and when you're playing on the road on the second game, is never good.
Never good, exactly.
But I like Kevin Love, so I sort of don't hate LeBron as much this year.
Look, I went to school in Ohio. I have friends that are Cavs fans. My girlfriend is from Akron itself, and I kind of look this idea that LeBron is doing it for I don't know, some sort of humanitarian goal or whatever is kind of bullshit. But I like that he went back, and I'm rooting for them. I think it's a good story, and Kevin Love is really good, and I would like to see them do well.
Me too. But when he played for Miami with that whole thing, hated it.
Yeah, no, of course,
absolutely hated it. Now it's like, oh, this is fine. I'm actually interested in this season.
Now.
There's no team.
I think like when the playoffs start,
yeah,
we'll be sick to death of the story, and
that's true.
Hoping he loses in the second round,
to
the Wizards or something.
There's a few good teams, but like aside from like the Spurs, and they're getting old. Like there's no one that seems really dominant.
No, the OKC lost Durant for a few months.
And Westbrook.
Yeah, and now Westbrook broke his hand last night.
Yep.
The Knicks. I don't know.
We'll see what happens. Shoot of people put together.
Hey, welcome back, Charlotte Hornets.
Oh yeah, that's right. They refixed their name.
And their logo.
And their logo.
And the logo.
I still can't get over the New Orleans Pelicans. That's just ridiculous.
I think that's awesome.
Like a pelican.
I love pelicans.
It's just the weirdest of like all choices to make. Although Wizards is also kind of weird.
Wizards
like,
is terrible.
What are you playing at?
They were called the Bullets.
I know. Like, what's the opposite of Bullets? I don't know. Wizard? Fucking game are you playing? I still like with that whole Redskins controversy. Just one last sports thing. The thing I can't get my head past is like, why doesn't Dan Snyder let them change the name, not only for like public opinion reasons, but because you get to sell a whole new shitload of merchandise.
Yeah.
Like you can just make a ton, you're minting cash at that point.
Yeah.
Every Redskins fan will buy a new t-shirt, a new jersey, a new whatever to have like the right name on it. You're just making $1 billion. But like to resist that makes no sense to me.
I secretly harbor this, conspiracy theory that he's waiting for the NFL to actually pay him to do it.
Oh, that makes sense. He's such a dick.
Not only will he make money on the, slew of new merchandise that gets rolled out, but he'll make money when the league is just like, okay, here's $10 million.
Yeah.
It can happen.
That's probably true. He sucks.
I will say, so my girlfriend, who knows basically nothing about sports, when they were playing, I think they had a Sunday night game a couple weeks ago, and I was watching it, and she looked up and she's like, wait, this team is called the Redskins? It's like, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. She's like, that's so offensive. Yes, it is.
And it's been that way for ages. It got to the point where it just doesn't even register. To be honest.
I will say it registers to me in its absence in that I listen to a few podcasts about football, and a lot of them will refuse to say Redskins.
Right.
They will just say that the Washington football team. So, yeah, I'm reminded every time they do that, oh yeah, they're not saying Redskins. So.
Right. It just make you think of it. They're like causing you to remember that word.
Right.
But anyways, I've got to go because I got to go talk to some freshmen about signing up for my class. Should be great.
Didn't class start like 6 months ago?
They do registration for spring semester.
Now?
So today, I think the registration opens tomorrow. So they have a party in the Modern Languages and Cultures department with pizza and soda pops to get students information about classes they can sign up for next semester. So basically, I drop off my posters for my classes, one of which is a mockery of all the posters that the MLC people do, because they can't design anything, like they're professors and they're shit at designing. And they always use like certain elements, like things are never centered right. There's always big boxes of like things around it. So we have one in which we put a bunch of cats on it. And a globe with all the flags that's just randomly placed in the middle of this page. Like I'll send you the PDF of it because it's super funny. And the cats are saying things, and one of them says, "Hang in there." The other cat says, "This class is great." So apparently none of the professors have picked up that this is completely mocking their design skills, but the students always sign up for it because they're like, oh, cats, I like cats. Good enough. So I gotta go do that.
You have fun with that.
I will, but I will talk to you later. I'll talk to you when I get back from Sharjah.
All right, sounds good.
Then maybe we could do something. I'm here the Monday and Tuesday after that, so
all right,
it could work. But okay, I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right,
take
later.
care. Bye.